options and give a recommendation for Teresa Leal to see if she should offer the cash discount for the progress of Casa de Deseno. To figure the operating cycle, we have to look at the average inventory age of 110 days and the average collection period of 75 days to receive 185 days. Then we need to take that 185 days and minus 30 days to get 155 days for the cash conversion cycle. The resource investment need would be $26,500,000 divided by 365 days, and that would yield $72,602.74. Then we need to take that total of $72,602.74 and multiply it by 155 days, and that would give us the resource investment requirement of $11,253,424.70. Note, we are assuming a 365-day year and assuming that the operating cycle investment per dollar of payables, inventory, and receivables is the same.
In question B, we're asked if Leal can optimize the company's operations according to industry standards, what will the company's operating cycle, cash conversion cycle, and resource investment need to be under these more efficient conditions? In order to gain an answer here, we're going to calculate Leal's cash conversion cycle, which represents the time measured in days that it will take for the company to convert its investments in inventory into cash flow. We calculate that by subtracting the days payable outstanding from the operating cycle. When we multiply the CCC by the resource investment requirement, we find the resource investment need. In this case, the operating cycle is 158. We subtract 39, which is the days payable outstanding, and we come up with 119. When we multiply 119 by the $72,603 mark, we come up with a total of $8,639,726.
To determine what additional savings in resource investment costs will result from the shortened cash conversion cycle, we must start with calculating the new average collection period. By offering credit terms of 310 net 60, the average collection period could be cut by 40%, which would make it 45 days. Next, we add the 45 days to the average operating cycle of 83 to get 128 days. By subtracting the average payment period of 39, we have a total of 89 days. To get the total resources needed, we would need to multiply the estimated spending of $26,500,000 by 89 and then divide it by 365 for a daily amount of $6,461,644. Finally, we subtract our findings from the original resource investment to find a savings of $2,178,082. If the firm's credit sales are $40 million and 45% of customers are expected to take the 3% discount, the firm's annual revenues will be reduced by $540,000. If sales decreased by 80%, or decreased to 80%, moving from $40 million to $32 million, the new annual savings would be $394,520. Now we will turn our attention to the firm's bad debts expenses. Assuming a decline from 2% to 1.5%, we would take the difference of 0.5% to determine the annual savings of $200,000.
So as we continue in the project, we're starting to gain some clarity for Teresa and advice for her financial management for the firm. First of all, we so far have really recognized that offering the cash discount as outlined would be justified financially because it would lower the average collection period by 30 days, while the average investment would decrease $2,630,136.99. This would save the company $394,520.55 in investments and accounts receivable. And there would also be a reduction in bad debt of 0.5%, which translates into $200,000 in company savings. So we reach in the project two final conclusions. First, that Teresa should compare the firm's working capital and current asset management to industry standards and industry norms. And second, that she should, in fact, offer the discount.
Hi. Let's talk about some of the options for short-term financing for CASA. First of all, let's define what is short-term financing. Typically, the duration of the loan is 1 year or less. It's also tied to some type of collateral, whether that be accounts receivable or inventory. We'll talk about secured versus unsecured here in just a moment, but let's talk about what's preferred by the lender. One might think that a secured loan is preferred because there's tangible items tied to it. However, the secured loans are more cumbersome for the banks to process due to paperwork, etc. So there is usually additional fees tied to the amount of the loan. So unsecured might be a better option for some companies. What is used to secure a loan? Again, accounts receivable and inventory usually. Downfalls of a secured loan. You'll have to do, which we do at the hospital that I work for, a lot of FF&E, furniture, fixture, and equipment lists, and assess value to your items that you're using as collateral, and sometimes that can be time consuming. Options for secured versus unsecured. There are many. Let's talk about a few. For CASA, they can look at secured sources. First, trust receipt inventory loan. This is a secured short-term loan against inventory under which the lender advances 80 to 100% of the cost of the borrower's relatively expensive inventory. Specifically there, we're looking at the word expensive inventory items in exchange for the borrower's promise to repay the loan. Second, let's look at a floating inventory lien. Very similar to the first option, it's a secured short-term loan against inventory under which the lender's claim is on the borrower's inventory in general. Third, as far as secured sources, pledge of accounts receivable. This is the use of a firm's accounts receivable as security or collateral to obtain a short-term loan. It is exactly as it sounds. Warehouse receipt loan is a little bit different, and maybe you haven't heard of it, but this is where the lender designates a specific warehouse to house the inventory of the borrower, so they have a little bit more oversight of the collateral itself. Unsecured sources. The first would be a trade credit. The seller extends credit to the buyer between the time the buyer receives the goods or services and when it pays for them. A second option for unsecured sources, is a line of credit. A line of credit specifies the maximum amount of an unsecured short-term borrowing the bank will allow the firm over a given period, typically a year, as we talked about. The firm either pays a fee or keeps a certain percentage of the loan, generally 10 to 20%, in a checking account to the bank. So in the instance of a line of credit, the lender has some oversight of your bank account. Revolving credit agreement. Revolving credit agreement is basically a guaranteed line of credit that carries an extra fee in addition to interest. Revolving credit agreements are often arranged for a period of 2 to 5 years. Last, let's talk about commercial paper. It's an IOU. So this is an IOU issued by stronger companies. Corporations issue commercial paper in multiples of $100,000 typically for periods ranging from 3 to 270 days. So there are a lot of options when we're talking about secured versus unsecured. CASA did a lot of work increasing their cash inventory cycle, creating an additional $2.6 million in surplus that would be considered their working capital. So there are a lot of options for them. And that's all for secured versus unsecured.
Our team recommends Teresa Leal offer the cash discount for the progress of Casa de Deseno. A short-term cash initiative represents a cost savings debt reduction. The company stands to gain from this asset management strategy over the long term by way of short-term adjustments.